Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show.
Today we are taking a special quick trip in the TARDIS. Today it's Who Classic.
Today's episode, Doctor Who, the TV movie. This is the only version that was Paul McGann's appearance, and three of us have watched it. Let's introduce those three. Hi, I'm Eugene.
Hi, I'm Brian.
And I'm Frank.
And then the other three we are going to indoctrinate? Yeah, indoctrinate into this TV movie.
That's what you did there.
Josh.
I'm Josh.
Kelsey.
Hi, I'm Kelsey.
Allburn.
Hi, I'm Auburn.
So they don't know what they're getting into.
So
I've heard what we're getting into.
I'm sorry. What's the name of this movie?
Doctor Who.
The movie?
No,
just Doctor Who.
Oh, it's just Doctor Who. Oh, okay. I thought the title was Doctor Who, the movie. And I was like, really? That's the name of it? But the name is just Doctor Who. Is this the first Doctor Who movie?
No.
Why is it called Doctor Who?
What other
There's a
movie was
movie.
there?
The ones with
There's the Peter Cushing movie.
Peter Cushing. That's it.
right.
Peter
Yeah,
Cushing
so-
movies.
But those are like Doctor Who and the Daleks. I think it's Doctor Who Dalek Invasion 2150 or
Yeah.
something like that. Two movies that are not considered canon. They came out in the 60s, concurrently when the show was on, and they're very different.
Completely different take.
Isn't he a human scientist?
Yes.
Yeah, he's human, and yeah.
So not part
Human.
of the whole.
Really? Like the Doctor has anything to do with being human.
So all your questions, Kelsey, will be answered and not answered.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait.
So we just thought it might be fun to do this little preview before you guys see the movie.
So we're still innocent.
Yes, you still don't know what you've gotten yourself into.
So let's roll that beautiful bean footage. And we're back.
Yay!
Before we get into the episode or the movie, I'll give you some statistics. The show Doctor Who at the time was in decline, and the last episode that was broadcast was the serial Survival Part 3, ending the 26-year run on the 6th of December, 1989.
With the seventh Doctor and his companion Ace,
Yes.
who was a good companion.
Is that a guy?
No, Ace
Female.
was a girl.
Oh.
She goes after a Dalek with a baseball bat. It's awesome.
Was she the punk
Yes.
rocker?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I think
The
I remember
anarchist.
seeing something.
She's an anarchist. Yes.
Okay.
When that last episode aired, there was no indication given to the audience that this would be the final regular installment of Doctor Who. Because previous seasons had ended, there would be an announcement at the closing credits saying that the program would return the following year. But this did not stop Doctor Who from continuing. It was comic books, novels, and other things that just kept going, just not TV. The BBC wanted to end the show some time ago, and a movie was already in the works. At one point, Steven Spielberg and Amblin Entertainment were involved. Liam Cunningham they were showing some interest in him, and he's Sir Davos from Game of Thrones.
Oh.
But it wasn't just one movie. There were a couple different
Movies, yes.
movies in production all over, from BBC to some other production
American
area. And they
rights
had
and-
each one had people tied to it or said they were tied to it. And
Which is interesting because when the show went off the air with the seventh Doctor, the BBC just wanted it to die.
Just didn't
They
want
had
anything to do
no
with it.
interest in it anymore. They thought it was an embarrassment. They thought its time had passed, and they just wanted it gone.
And this was the 90s, so we were in deep with Next Generation, Star Trek, Next Generation.
Yeah.
And at this time, The X-Files was in its third season and, ruling the Friday night time slot.
Was this a BBC production?
Yes, this was a co-production with the BBC.
And it was shot here, though, yes? Or
It
was
was shot in
overseas?
Vancouver.
It was shot in
Oh, in
Canada.
Vancouver, okay.
Canada.
Except for the few choice locations that say it's San
Yeah.
Francisco.
This was a co-production between the BBC
Universal,
universe.
and the network who shall not be named.
the horrible Fox network. Also, the third Doctor, John Pertwee, died a few days after the U.S. broadcast. When this aired in the UK, it had included an epitaph for him. So that was pretty cool. The TV movie was written by Mark Jacobs, directed by Jeffrey Sachs, executive produced, and basically he spearheaded it.
He brought it, the whole thing to life.
Philip David Siegel, who was born in the U.S., grew up in the UK, and that's how he became a fan of Doctor Who and wanted this thing to continue.
This was his passion project.
This originally aired in the US on the 14th of May, 1996, but it aired first in Canada on the 12th of May, and then in the UK on the 27th of May, 1996.
So we actually saw it before the United Kingdom,
which is a first.
yeah, and a last probably.
Probably, yeah. The Eighth Doctor is played by Paul McGann, and you may remember him from Alien 3, or may not remember him from Alien 3.
Who is he in Alien 3?
Golic. That doesn't help.
Who is he in Alien 3?
One of the bald-headed guys.
Who is he in Alien 3?
The stinky guy. Do you remember the stinky guy
Vaguely.
that they put in the straitjacket?
Vaguely.
Anyway.
I shouldn't even ask that question because any answer I'm going to remember vaguely. Except for Charles, what's his name? Dutton.
Dance.
And Charles Dutton.
Charles Dance. Yeah, both.
Both.
Yes, that's true. Anyway,
I forgot about Charles Dutton.
Dr. Grace Hallowell is played by Daphne Ashbrook. I met her at Kamikaze. She's very nice.
Was she there for this? Like as a...
Yeah, she was.
She loves Doctor Who and Doctor Who fans. She has so much fun with it. And when you see her in interviews, she just...
Oh, yeah.
She glows about her.
Is this the only time she was in it?
Mhm.
Ever?
Is she American actress?
Yes, she is.
Did she do any of the radio shows?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Because I don't think they brought Grace back in
There's a
an
problem
audio with the rights.
Right.
Yeah. So
Oh.
The Master is played by Eric Roberts, and Bruce is played by Eric Roberts. Chang Li is played by Yi Ji Su. The ratings for this TV movie, well, let's go first to the US, got 5.6 million viewers, a total of 9% share of the audience. However, in the UK, it got 9 million viewers, 75% audience appreciation score. So there was definitely something here,
Yeah,
just not in the
didn't-
US.
It didn't work in the US, but the UK liked it.
And also another reason that it might not have done so well in the US is that it was airing at the same time as a special episode of Roseanne season 8. We learned that DJ performed CPR on Dan to keep him alive and they're in the hospital. So it was a very emotional episode. And so first impressions from those who have not seen it.
Was the American setting on purpose
Yes.
to appeal to a more American audience?
This was used to introduce Doctor Who to the US audience at large that hadn't watched Doctor Who, the other version. And that's why they purposely chose San Francisco and using like Daphne Ashbrook and Eric Roberts as American actors.
Okay,
And this was a Fox show.
I see.
Because I do remember watching this. It was the Fox Tuesday night movie. And I remember watching this.
And it
When
was
aired.
it was just a movie, but it was also a backdoor pilot. If it had done well, they would have extended it to be a series on Fox.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That would've been
Unfortunately, it
fun.
didn't work out.
It was shot real nice. Like for that of the time, it didn't feel like it had a low production value. First impression, it was something that had the Doctor in it, and it was interesting and fun.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. It wasn't as bad as you guys made it out to seem.
I didn't make it seem that.
And I
We were
think-
just managing expectations.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. I always like going in with lower expectations
Exactly.
because then you always have room to be surprised or happy. I think if the Doctor had been terrible, then I would not have liked this movie. But the Doctor, for me, was solid. And I think that's what helped me enjoy the film.
Yeah, it was a solid Doctor. Yeah, I think I enjoyed it. I think overall, I have to admit, I might not have been awake during all of it, but yeah, I mean, after the initial,
But you didn't snore.
That's good. That's good. Yeah,
a
after the
reference
initial
to the Master.
Americanisms, just to let us know that we were in fact
Right.
in America. I think I got over that.
You mean all the
pretty
shooting
quick,
and
though.
murdering people?
Yeah, of course we had a gunfight, gang fighting, and
gangs.
Car chase?
some American slang thrown in there.
Yeah.
Just,
As if.
That's it. Right.
but I enjoyed it.
Way. No way. It was
Yes way.
Yes way.
Yes, way.
You can see it in the actual movie, just all the different people involved trying to make it. You have to praise the studio, then you have the other BBC, you have the American studio, we have what the person who started it all wanted it to be, how they had to bring everything together, and a lot of it didn't work because they tried to force it.
Yeah, it felt very constructed.
Yes.
It was a whole too many cooks.
Well, because you have three different cultures kind of making
Yeah.
one thing. You have BBC, UK, and then you have the American component, and then you have it being shot in Canada using, casting Canadians. So
Oh, and then you have Fox, which, is a whole other entity.
the devil. What?
Oh, sorry.
I did. I like this Doctor, but I did feel there wasn't enough of him. Like everything
Right.
with him seemed rushed,
Yeah.
and it really didn't give us enough time to kind of like
Get to
be
know him.
invested in him. You know, because
I definitely felt that too.
I was more invested in the Doctor in the beginning, the seventh,
Yes.
and the seventh Doctor,
Sylvester McCoy.
because we had some kind of quiet time with him and saw him experience something, whereas this guy was shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
And I felt like the writing of him being confused during his regeneration and knowing about the episodes that I've seen in the future, it was like a lesser version of that. Like it was like,
Yeah, it's a
it was
shame
like,
because-
hey, this is what happens when he gets all confused. It was very typical writing. I almost feel like, again, it could have been an Americanized version of people aren't going to understand what's going on here. So it was almost like too, on the nose.
The exposition was given as exposition.
Yeah.
It's like, this is why I'm doing this. This is what it is. TARDIS spells this.
Right. And that's the fun of the BBC show, is that it throws you in, and you're
But they do, like, every time you get a regenerated Doctor, you do have the episode where he's confused.
Yeah, but this wasn't written very well. Is what I
no,
mean.
no,
Right.
it's not. But it is, if this had gone to a series,
Yeah.
because once he becomes the Doctor, he's very solid as a Doctor.
Yeah.
So he could have been a very good Doctor in future episodes.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's it's kind of interesting because this is McGann's, well, for the longest time, his only screen appearance as the Doctor. But his Doctor actually is one of the longest running Doctors ever. The 8th Doctor after this.
Wait.
Okay, hold on.
Or don't explain
No,
that.
no, we're gonna rewind a little. I'll rewind a little bit and then you'll continue. Sorry. So 1996, we have the 8th Doctor, right?
Which is him.
Yes, Paul McGann.
Paul McGann.
And then in 2005, we have Christopher Eccleston as the 10th Doctor. Oh, sorry, 9th Doctor. So there's that big gap where it's Paul McGann. That's a long time. So how did they fill that?
So what they did was there were a lot of audio stories that Paul McGann was working on. So the company Big Finish makes audio stories with the Doctors. So it's a series of very popular audio stories where he has companions, ongoing stories, different companions come and go. He also had, not Paul McGann, but the 8th Doctor has a long run in comic books. So when you actually look at the length of when a Doctor... When there's a current regeneration of the Doctor, the 8th is, if not the longest, compared to the 7th, because the 7th ends in 1989, and he goes with comic books and novel tie-ins to 1996. So he has a long run, and I think Paul McGann, I think the 8th Doctor then overtakes him. So the 8th Doctor is actually the longest in physical time of a current Doctor.
That would be 9 years.
Yeah. So even though he's on screen once, he actually has almost the longest continuous storyline of any of the Doctor's regenerations. So it's kind of interesting that way, because the audio series are very popular. Because again, the actor is really good.
Now we're going to get into the summary.
The 7th Doctor is in the TARDIS, taking the remains of his old nemesis, the Master, back to their home planet of Gallifrey. The Master is not quite dead yet and breaks out of confinement in the form of a liquid slug
Hooray.
and causes the TARDIS to travel to Earth instead. It materializes in the Chinatown area of San Francisco, December 30th, 1999.
All right. What's up with the slug?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody knows.
All right.
So
there's
he's a slug.
No hint of any sort of shape-changing master in the first series, or
In the classic series of Doctor Who, the Master does run out of regenerations and his body decays. And there are times when he's like this burnt out husk because his body's decayed. Real reason why they did that is because the actor who played the Master died. So they just kind of made him a burnt out husk for a little while. And then I looked it up. I have not seen this episode,
I saw it.
but in one of the 4th Doctor's stories, the Master, they go through the whole thing fighting this burnt out husk of a Master. And right at the end of the episode, the Master uses the body of one of this planet's leaders. He actually merges with that body and takes over that body. And the interesting thing about that character, the character's name for the whole serial was Tremis, which is an anagram of Master. So they were setting it all up. And that character, another interesting fact about that character, Tremis, that character had a daughter named Nyssa. And Nyssa became a companion of the Doctor and is one of the most famous companions of the 5th Doctor. Nis has stayed around a long time.
So if he's a Time Lord, like where does this power to take over someone else's body come from? Like,
The script.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it just is
There's no
kind
way
of
to-
convenient.
all right.
There,
Well,
you know,
I think you kind of hinted at it while we were watching that he was practicing the dark arts
Right.
and learning all of these other ways of extending his life.
yeah, he's he's a snake slug, parcel
All
tongue.
right.
You know,
I thought it was interesting just because I always thought it was a slug and then he turns into more of a
snake.
snake-like character later on. But at the beginning, when Cheng Li steps in like a little puddle, which is him, it's a reflection of a snake that was a neon light for the restaurant. So it's like maybe
Maybe
He
he
got
got,
it.
from that.
got the idea or influence from it. I don't know. But
I mean, it's already right from the start. There are things you just kind of have to accept, not
Yeah.
think about too hard, and go on. Like the Daleks on Skaro,
With the master,
put the master on trial because the Daleks put
hold trials.
people on trial, execute the master, and then just hi doctor, take his remains and leave.
Yeah.
That's not the Daleks. You just kind of have to accept it and move on.
if there's a good writer who wants to write that story, I'd be interested.
What,
to
you
find
never
out
heard of the Tribunal of Daleks?
what the master did to make the Daleks have to
Get rid of it.
concede to that.
So annoying.
to-
Get him
right.
out of here.
Or that they would just let the doctor go.
Right. That too. There's just too many things that
Right.
I think for a classic viewer, they were like, what? But then for the Americans, they're like, okay.
At the beginning, we kind of had that 2 planets and they kind of fade into eyes.
It's a weird motif that.
But is that connected at all to the original?
No.
Like that the master.
that's a
just being
choice.
The
that
writer wants eyes to be predominant through the
Okay.
story.
Okay.
So
that
then you,
whole.
because when you first go to Earth, you're looking at a fisheye. And so he's not subtle in this.
You need to recognize the master's eyes later on.
Right. But that's not from classic. That's
No.
just this. Okay.
Right.
But there are lots of things in that opening sequence. Like the TARDIS looks amazing. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, the console room's amazing.
the interior.
All the
Oh,
different
yeah.
rooms?
yeah, like
Yeah,
you
I
see
like
the.
that.
Yeah, you
Was
see
that like that in the no? So what was that doctor's TARDIS like in the show?
You just have that central console, and then white
It's that
walls.
60s look of futuristic. So a lot of it's
Okay.
white. They have
sterile.
the circles
Even-
against the wall as a pattern.
And even in 1989, that last bit was like that as well.
Ish,
Yeah, he
basically.
So this like
he had a very plain console room. There wasn't ever any like lounge area off
Right.
to the side of the console.
or place for plants and.
The fourth Doctor did have a secondary console room, which was like an auxiliary one, and that one is the one with it has wood paneling. Very small though. They're all very small, but it had wood paneling and stained glass windows, and everything's all dark wood. But that's it. So this was like a big step up
A
where you're
big
just
set.
Oh yeah.
big,
Yes.
big
It's the
set.
American money
Yeah.
there going in because you can't keep a big set like that.
Yeah.
on
I bet
a-
you it wasn't even
on
a
a
set.
serial show.
I bet you it
Had
was
they
an
been
actual
seen.
like mansion location that they got access to.
No, it was a set.
It was,
It
a
was?
set. Yeah.
All right,
But it's almost my favorite TARDIS.
It's very like
that's cool.
steampunk Jules Verne
No,
looking.
and even
Right.
medieval, like
Yeah.
the cloister and all of that is.
Well, the cloister room is supposed to be tiny, and then anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one other thing that they threw in for the fans is that the seventh Doctor uses the sonic screwdriver to seal the chest, the master away. Sylvester McCoy did not know how to use it because his doctor never had a sonic screwdriver.
What? Oh,
So it's
man.
actually being used backwards.
Ah.
So
I thought it was cool though when you opened the briefcase and there were like several Sonic
Yeah.
screwdrivers. I was like, oh.
Yeah, there was a decision made earlier on, I think around the fifth Doctor, to stop using the sonic because they thought it was too much of a
Yeah,
Yes.
crutch, like a crutch.
So Sylvester McCoy was, I don't know how to use a sonic.
Where
Good
have
lesson.
I heard that before? I think we bring that up at some point.
Rassilon was the one who started Time Lords. And so they have a seal of Rassilon, which is stylized infinity, but it looks like an 8. It's turned right.
Okay, yeah, I
to the
saw
side.
that throughout
So
the
all throughout this has the seal of Rassilon, but it looks like an 8, so it's great for this 8th Doctor.
Oh.
I love, but it's already been established as that look, but I love that they
Okay.
used it so much.
And that'll be used throughout Doctor Who. That symbol. It's everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll keep my eye out now for that.
Some other things that the motif of clocks is similar to like Back to the Future's opening. this is the first time we get the Doctor Who theme with an orchestral arrangement.
An interesting thing is how I said the BBC just wanted the show to die. Even when they were bringing it back for this TV movie, they didn't want anything. They didn't want the Seventh Doctor back.
So their heart wasn't in it.
No.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't want him back so much to the point where when the producers said, look, we need him back, they said, okay, but he can't say anything. Which is why he has like 2 or 3 lines.
Okay.
Gets
And
shot.
he walks out of the TARDIS and gets shot because the
Oh,
BBC were like,
I thought
no.
that was so sad.
It was very sad.
I know.
Oh, you can't do the Doctor like that.
Why? Because he was like an old guy and he didn't have
No,
like
just
a... No. I mean,
walks
like, why didn't they want him?
Oh.
They just didn't have any faith in the show.
Right.
It's
They
the
were
show.
tired of it being so cheap, and it was almost like a joke at the time. And at the same time that Doctor Who was going down, Star Trek The Next Generation in the US was gaining popularity. And so they were kind
In
of
the
saying...
UK. It was getting popularity.
Well,
in-
both.
It was,
Okay.
it was
Worldwide.
and they were kind of looking at it going, look at what you can do on an American budget, and we have cardboard sets. And so they were just kind of like, it's time, it's past.
We need to
So-
move on type of thing.
But I'm really glad that they got Sylvester McCoy.
Yeah. When the Doctor steps out of the TARDIS, he is quickly shot American style multiple times by a gang who then drives away. Chang Li, the person they were intending to shoot and kill, goes with the Doctor in the ambulance where we meet Bruce, the EMT. Lee gives the patient's name as John Smith. The Master Slug also stows away in the ambulance. Chang Li refers to himself in the third person. I think that's the first clue that this is not a character that's going to be good. He goes, Chang Li will help you. Uh-oh. That's not good.
So they have this, it's now an American production, and so there's this big shootout with all these guns. And, that just happens in
San Francisco.
San Francisco alleyways. Just, these big guns shoot out with holding your guns sideways because, that's how Americans roll. I think it's interesting that it's, Americans shot the Doctor. But in some ways, I just kind of laugh and think that's really what the BBC controllers wanted to do to him.
Yeah.
It's a little ironic.
And they outsourced it.
They outsourced it, yeah. Eric Roberts is good as Bruce. He was fine
As Bruce.
as
Yeah,
Bruce.
well, yeah.
But he was doing well. It was,
Yeah. He's a decent actor. He's all right. He's Eric Roberts.
Yeah.
As soon as he needed to be someone else, that's when it went off the rails.
We will get there.
The hospital doctors cannot explain the Doctor's X-ray showing 2 hearts. His heart rate is so erratic that they call in cardiologist Dr. Grace Holloway. The Doctor wakes up while in the operating room before she sends a microcamera probe into his arteries to identify the problem with his heart. He tries to fight but is heavily sedated. Grace inserts the microcamera and is amazed that she gets lost on her way to the heart. The Doctor convulses and dies on the operating table with a microcamera probe still inside his body.
All right. Where do we start? With the opera dress? The not checking x-rays before surgery? Or where? What?
Well, the third Doctor, his regeneration was similar to what happened here, where they were looking at an X-ray and they're like 2 hearts. So that's
Yeah, but then-
I'm just saying that's a throwback.
But why take an X-ray if the bullets are in his leg? Why take an
his
X-ray of the-
shoulder?
yes,
Yeah.
of the chest. But it went straight through his shoulder, so there's no bullet in there. They knew that.
And when the Doctor gets shot outside the TARDIS, two squibs go off in his chest. It goes boom, boom. And it's like, wait, he's shot in the shoulder and now his legs? It's a little bad script writing there.
They did pull a bullet out at the hospital. Didn't
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
one that they dropped in?
From the legs, yeah.
From the
Oh,
leg,
was
because
it
they
from the
kept
leg?
saying that the
'Cause it-
shoulder one went through.
I see.
So then why did they have to operate on his heart?
Because his hearts were, it was so
During the surgery, they
erratic.
said the heart's beating very
the
erratic. We need to call in a cardiologist
And it
because it's fibrillating.
It wasn't.
It was just 2 hearts beating.
And he was regenerating.
I see. Okay.
Right. But
Well, I don't think he's regenerating yet. He's not
he wasn't dying.
quite dead yet.
Oh, right.
He wasn't
You can
dying.
say it better.
That was the thing.
So
He wasn't dying.
Grace killed him.
Grace killed
Yes.
The
him.
American
That's what I thought.
doctor.
That's why I
Yes.
felt when I was watching that. I was
Grace?
like, oh man.
Yes, and probably holds the record for the only companion to actually kill the Doctor.
In
The heart.
Go through the hearts and then
Yep.
getting lost and then getting snapped off.
Yep. And he was saying, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. He would have survived the bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could think. Yeah.
But she gets lost on the way to his heart.
Aww.
Because this was more of an American production, this isn't a critique of the American health system opposed to the NHS, right?
Well, they were saying that because Bruce said, hope he has good insurance or
Okay,
something
yeah.
along the
Yeah,
line.
he
You better
needs
have a lot of money.
where he's going.
Otherwise, and the whole, if you don't fill it out, I can't look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, they did raise the music during the doctor's death scene so that
Very loud.
is intended so that he would recognize the music and associate it with her, which they did later on. They showed it. So
They also
they
said
really
it was,
played it up high. So he's like, hello, we're playing the music. So he can now associate it. You remember this.
He also
It's
pulls off her
overtly.
mask, trying to tell her to
Right.
stop, so he recognizes her face.
and they said that was Sylvester McCoy's idea on the day, where he said, I'll pull the mask off so I can recognize her later.
Grace tells Lee that Mr. Smith died on the table and realizes Lee didn't know the patient at all. He grabs the doctor's personal effects and runs out of the hospital with Grace chasing after him before he gets away. She chases him in a ball gown before the clock strikes midnight.
Yeah.
I also love
But
how
he
she's,
left his shoe behind.
Yeah.
Those shoes fit perfectly.
she yells, somebody stop him. And you see the guard come out of the door,
Yeah.
look at him, and then just keep walking across the way. Did you pick that up?
This is also the same hospital that they filmed a bunch of X-Files episodes in, so
Oh, is it really?
if you recognize it, that's why.
Yeah, I recognized it. Recognized that beaker in the corner.
They wheel the doctor's body to the morgue, where we learn there will be a costume party the next night to celebrate New Year's Eve.
Who does that?
Yeah,
That's if.
Yes way.
Locked inside a cold room awaiting an autopsy, the doctor regenerates into his 8th incarnation. He breaks out of the room and gathers clothes from an orderly's locker, which is a costume of Wild Bill Hickok. He is in a confused mental haze and roams around the hospital.
I thought that was kind of cool. Like, it gave an excuse for the doctor to have a doctor-esque outfit.
Very much.
Yeah. That's also similar to the 3rd Doctor's and the 11th Doctor's thing. They're in a hospital looking through clothes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, looking through lockers.
This is also the first instance where we get the Christ imagery, because when he comes out of the morgue, he's draped in a cloth with long hair.
Shroud.
Shroud, yeah. And then after that, he's like kneeling and he's like, who am I?
Yeah.
Very,
With his arms
Yeah, with his
outstretched.
arms stretched.
The place where he is kneeling, why?
We don't know.
It's
I like,
Oh,
is
yeah.
this left over from like an earthquake that they just haven't gone around to fixing up yet?
At first
Is
it's
it
for those
like
without
that
insurance.
rundown?
Go to that wing.
The
Welcome
baby
to America.
doll, like the naked baby doll,
Yeah.
like against the mirror.
The
know,
get well
the-
My
soon
favorite is the
card.
pipe with the running water. And it's like,
No one's turned that off. yet.
okay. Yeah,
It was
makes
after-
no sense.
It was after they used the X-Files production used that part of the set and just left it.
Like, looks cool, let's go there.
At first, I was like, "Yeah, every hospital has an unfinished wing." And then as I was going, I'm like, "It's not unfinished; it's
it's not.
destroyed."
I mean, that looked like out of Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you looked at the mirrors
All
at
the
first, there were
mirrors.
7 images, so that means he's the 8th. And then they show that it's so
More.
multiple, so he's mentally fractured.
So it started there, and then they were like, "All right, why are these beams broken?" And then they built this up
Yeah,
around.
maybe.
They had that moment in the script.
There's so many things in this this movie. Oh, the Christ imagery. Oh, the 7 mirrors, meaning the 7 incarnations of the Doctor. That the director and the writers like, oh no, that we had no idea.
It's accidental.
It just happened. It's like, really? I mean, I can kind of see the 7 mirrors, but if somebody came along and went, wow, you put 7 mirrors in there for 7 incarnations, you say yes.
And the whole Frankenstein parallel was just accidental. That was just on the television. There was no, correlation between Frankenstein coming to life and the Doctor coming to life.
well, the reason they got that is because Universal. That's why. Yeah.
It was all planned. That's the whole thing. There's no subtlety.
And
in
we
this.
should say real quick that one the orderly in the morgue was a young Will Sasso from Mad
Right.
TV, and
That's just comedic performances.
yes,
I mean, he's really young in there, and you can tell he's got like that. He's got it.
That baby fat?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I did like him walking around with the toe tag still on him.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great bit.
I remember thinking that was how Grace was going to figure out
Yeah.
he was the dead body, and it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
much better and creepier, but we haven't gotten there yet.
When John Smith's body is now missing, the hospital wants to cover up that he was ever there. Grace will not go along with this and quits. On her way out, the doctor recognizes her and follows her to her car. He pulls out the microprobe wire out of his body and tells her he was the man in the operating room, the man with 2 hearts. He orders her to drive. Stunned, she drives.
Exactly.
I'm like, what?
Also, I love the fact that the doctor is screaming, "Take me away from here before they kill me again." She's the one who killed you. You're going with your murderer.
Again, you just gotta go with it. This is our first Star Wars reference. He's yelling at Grace, "You're my only hope."
No, it doesn't make sense that she just drives. But before then, when she quits, that's when you see that Grace is straightforward. She's honorable. She's, you could almost say good companion material. She does what's right.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to do what's right. She doesn't like when people do things that are wrong. So
She
you
also-
kind of see there could be a companion in there.
She also catches on quickly.
Yes.
A little too quickly, even for most companions. But
We only have 2 accounts.
I think Philip Siegel really liked the 4th Doctor because while he's looking for clothes, you see the 4th Doctor's scarf.
yes.
And jelly babies are throughout the whole
That's the 4th.
movie, which is also the 4th Doctor. I mean, at the
little
beginning,
candies.
the beginning he has it and runs throughout the whole thing. And then both the Doctor and Cheng Li are going through someone else's stuff at the same time, which I thought was kind of neat. So they're going back and forth, that they're both rummaging through somebody else's. That's something that I thought was really good in
There's a
the
lot
show.
of elements from like classic or even the new incarnation
Yes.
of Doctor Who that are in there that seem like this could be something. Just it was like a craft project, but someone says, "Oh, we'll put tape on everything later."
Or maybe it just wasn't the right time. Like the timing wasn't.
It was very difficult to get this made.
Yeah.
If you look at the supplementary materials, this was...
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it's kind of like, yes, this was this man's passion project, because if he didn't have a passion, nothing would have been made.
But you can see there's so many different people trying
Yes.
to take control of
There's-
it
He
and
went
trying
through
to
a lot to
appease
get this made.
everybody.
This was not an easy production in
No.
any way.
I thought it's funny that the Doctor keeps repeating while he's walking around in a haze. He's seeing the clock and people are mentioning time. So time.
Yeah.
I thought somebody would be over near a dead body going, oh Lord, time, oh Lord, time, Lord, time, Lord. It just seemed like that was what this movie should do.
Yeah. If they're gonna go for it, they should have went for it.
As we got close-ups of their eyes.
Right.
Was there anything also too that said why midnight was important? Like why do they have until midnight?
No,
Or was it just
Because it's New Year's Eve and that's what we can count down to.
Yeah.
It's the whole,
It was Y2K.
Right.
The world was
They
going to
didn't-
end anyway.
there's
They
no
didn't know
reason,
about
they didn't know how
Y2K
long it was going to be.
there.
It just,
I-
that's the whole part with the script. We just have to make a time, let's use it.
No, I get that, and I think it worked well. But the fact that there was no explanation to why that, like they could have even said that because that's when the it was some kind of
Equinox.
something.
The Master, now more snake-like than slug,
See how snake-like I can be.
inhabits the body of Bruce, the EMT. He realizes the human body cannot sustain him and will not last long. He kills Bruce's wife and goes to the hospital to take over the doctor's body. The Master arrives at the hospital to find that the doctor's body is missing. A nurse tells him that the kid who was with him took all the doctor's things. The Master leaves to track down Cheng Li.
The Asian child. That
That's
was
a movie
such a
with
bad line.
That's
It's
a movie
horrible.
with Eddie Murphy.
The golden child. That is really Eric Roberts' wife in real life.
Oh, really?
Is it really?
Oh, that's cool.
That's
cool.
nice.
Because I thought that was a good scene with some good chemistry and some acting. Good acting. I laughed at that scene. I
Yeah.
thought it was cute.
Of him snoring? You mean? Or
Oh, the one who played the Bruce's
wife.
wife is his wife. Oh, I thought you were saying the
The nurse?
nurse.
Oh, no. Did
No,
you
no.
say his wife? It was
The wife.
Oh,
the wife is the wife.
All right. Well,
You retract what you just said then?
Well, the nurse was
No.
actually who was having Eric Roberts. Was having
there you go. Yeah. I thought we were talking about the Asian child.
The nurse was
scene.
good. I liked her.
That was a cute scene.
So this is the first appearance of the decline of the master.
In more ways than one.
Not only in his physical body deteriorating, but for some reason he becomes the Terminator at this point.
The T1000th.
No, the T800, I think is the
Yeah,
model.
Arnold's.
Well,
Oh,
he's
yeah, I'm saying
learning.
1000th.
The master is learning how to control the body. He says that later on, that it took him time to learn to walk and talk in the body.
Yeah, but like the
Maybe.
costume is what we're like.
Which was a necessity on
we-
set.
We'll tell you what,
actually.
yeah,
Oh,
because the contact lenses they were like they scratched his eye
wow.
and it irritated him, so that's why he has the aviator sunglasses.
It made sense story-wise, though, so that no one could see that his eyes were green and the
Sure.
snake-like.
But I'm just saying it doesn't help.
And his body was deteriorating because that was
Yeah.
gross with the nail.
Mhm.
Which they kind of dropped.
They drop
Because of his skin and
the latex. I
the
think.
latex he couldn't deal with. They kind of, they filmed him ripping off his fingernails because his body was going to deteriorate the whole way
Show.
through. They kind of just dropped that. The leather fireman's jacket that he's wearing is because his real costume turned out to be too small. And so
Okay.
it didn't look good.
Interesting.
So they just threw on this weird looking leather fireman's.
They couldn't find another EMT outfit in Vancouver.
Yeah,
But he looked so much like the Terminator.
That's
come
the
through.
problem. It's
It
like,
just,
just on the heels.
very much
yeah.
the Terminator.
which I guess they were going for.
Were they?
I don't know.
How could you not? I mean, it's not like that could be an accident
They didn't
as
go
well.
for Christ either.
I don't believe that. Sorry, whoever. Don't believe you.
At her home, Grace examines the doctor, takes a blood sample,
As you do.
and verifies that he does indeed have two hearts. He tells her that the anesthesia almost destroyed his regeneration, but he's beginning to remember who he is.
I actually liked the amnesia storyline,
Yeah, me too.
but I'm glad it didn't last the whole movie
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
because I was worried that it was. And I was like, oh man, is he not going to know who he is the entire film? And he's just going to slowly, gradually learn to become the doctor again or to become a Time Lord. But I actually did like the amnesia because I was wondering, I was like, why doesn't he remember? That's not what happens when he changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, because he was out or whatever. And then
I was wondering the same thing. Like, why this time does he not remember anything? But they had an explanation for it.
I agree. I liked it.
And I think it helps to introduce somebody to this version if our
Yeah,
main
that's-
character doesn't know what he's doing and he remembers it with us as we go through the movie.
So as long as there's a good balance
Yeah.
between the time of him having amnesia and not. And
Yeah.
this one kind of gets past it really quick.
Yes.
Which I really like. I don't know if it's in that exact scene or maybe the other one, but one of the moments when they're in her house, he's telling her that he has 13 lives.
It is this scene.
It is this scene? Okay. The next time you watch it, if you look at him, he has the Time Lords have 12 regenerations, which result in 13 lives. Now, because of that, a lot of times people say they have 12 regenerations, and that was actually what was written in the script. So if you watch Paul McGann's mouth, he actually says, I have 12 lives. Somebody discovered it. They ADR'd over, I have 13 lives.
oh,
And now that I've told you that, when you see that scene, you will
cannot see it.
always
Yeah.
see him say 12 instead of 13.
And that comes from the classic,
old
the
ADR.
number of regenerations.
Yeah.
It is like watching a Chinese movie and dubbed in English. It is that bad once
It
you
is
know
that
it
bad
to
once you
look
know
for
it.
it.
Once you know, yeah.
well, I missed it because I was looking into his eyes and his open chest, because they put the heart in.
So that,
Anyway, that scene made me all gooey.
so the eye motif did work.
I guess this is a good time to bring up because this is where we were getting to know this doctor. He is cute and romantic.
When they hired him, he had longer, when they
longer
hired him, they
hair.
had longer hair.
He had longer hair.
Because of the roles he was dealing with.
Okay.
But he had to cut his hair for another role, I think.
Yeah. He was playing
So
a
when he came
military
in-
man.
When once he actually got hired, he comes in with short hair. And it's like, that's not what the look we were going for. So they gave him this wig, which I don't think worked the majority of the time. Sometimes it seemed fine, but most of the time it just seemed fake and just threw it off.
And he hated the wig himself, so
It didn't bother. I could tell once you told me that, I could sort of see it, but I think because he is such a character, like a cartoonish character in general, it didn't bother me. Because the way that the cowlicks were in the front of his hair, it gave it a design where if it was just his hair, I bet you it would have just looked like long hair.
I think it would have been fine with his own hair. Just to me, it just screamed fake. It seemed it didn't work right.
I didn't mind the wig. It didn't bother me.
And I also love this doctor's costume.
Yeah.
I love this doctor's costume. I think it's perfect for Doctor Who. You know,
Yes.
It's Wild Bill Hickok, but it's very
Getting rid of the hat and getting rid of the gun.
get rid of the hat, get rid of
It's
the
Doctor Who.
gun. It's very Edwardian, British. It suits him very well. I think it was a good choice on their part
And
to
it
do
goes
that.
with the hair.
Yes, it does. It very much goes with their hair.
It is interesting.
because that character does need to have long hair.
Yeah.
Now, whether it
Why
is
does he
his own
need to
hair,
have long hair?
just to fit the
Just
time
to fit the
period
look.
of the suit.
The whole look of
Yeah.
it.
Which is interesting. He's in an American West outfit, but it fits for a British character.
yeah.
Yeah, because when you say American West, you really don't think of that. You don't think of a.
Think of dusters and stuff like that. You think of Wild
Yeah, but he's
Bill
not wearing a
Hickok.
duster.
No, but it's a long coat.
Yeah, but he's also wearing a very ornate,
Yeah.
designed
Waistcoat.
vest. Wait, yeah,
Mhm.
we're Americans. Vest. And so yes, it is Wild Bill Hickok, but it's not cowboy.
No.
I keep
That's my
getting
point.
Hickok and Cody mixed up, but I thought it was Hickok who went to Europe
I think it was.
to do the Wild West shows
Yes.
all around Europe. So he would pick
Buffalo
up that.
Bill Cody was more of a performer.
Here,
than-
but I don't think he traveled.
It
there.
is Buffalo Bill Cody that went to Europe.
Cody went to Europe.
Yes.
Okay.
Never mind then.
Yeah.
No, yeah, because Wild Bill Hickok was killed at the card table.
Well,
We
now
don't.
you know. I
Doo,
didn't
doo,
know
doo.
Lee goes through the doctor's possessions and finds the sonic screwdriver, a pocket watch, a yo-yo, and a strange-looking key. He returns to the TARDIS and uses the key to enter, where he finds the Master already waiting inside. The Master convinces Lee that the doctor stole his body and that Lee is going to help him get it back.
Right. Now, how does the Master even get in there?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Page 62 of the script said so.
Yeah.
Right.
People have been asking that question for 20 years.
Yes.
So, yeah, he's just kind of he had a spare key made in
Whatever.
some adventure long
My first
ago.
thought, though, was before that,
That he gave to Bruce to carry in his pocket.
right.
Good point. All right, well, just kill that for me. Thank you.
I was surprised that that Chinese, Asian child,
He's an American.
even knew that was a key, because I didn't get that. I didn't catch that was a key.
So that key is
That key has a history.
yes, it does.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that.
No, he doesn't.
But I'll tell you this first. For the 21 of the 26 seasons of Doctor Who previous to this, the key was used in the TARDIS. That was the key, and it was introduced by John Pertwee. It's a unique,
The third doctor.
unique looking key where you kind of swipe and then use it instead of just a regular key going through it.
Regular door key that we have.
So
If you
that-
notice, the lock
It's
looked
kinda-
like a normal lock,
it's
and
kinda
you had to
fake.
push it
Decoy.
aside.
Yeah.
Mhm.
to-
Decoy lock.
Yeah.
So that's a carryover from the classic.
Right. But he wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
But
No.
I am glad today it's just a normal.
I'm very
looking
glad
key.
today it's normal. I like that it's a
Yeah.
normal key.
Mhm.
You also notice
Eh.
something, if this is the first time you watched a Classic Who episode, you also notice something that you open up the door to the TARDIS, the police box. You walk in, and now you're in the interior of the TARDIS. You notice the doors are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
That was always that way in the classic show.
Mm.
It wasn't until Eccleston's TARDIS that when you opened up a police box door and you walked into the interior, it was still a police box door on the inside as
Or
well.
the, yeah.
So in the classic, did they ever have any like looking from the outside in or inside out
Mhm.
like we do today?
Not
Oh,
so
no.
much not from the outside looking in. Occasionally you would be inside looking out.
Okay,
Not very often though, because they didn't have the money.
right.
So you just kind of walked from this futuristic, big, bulky door interior, and you just walked out the TARDIS door. They would just cut, and suddenly you'd also be in film from videotape. Thank you, BBC.
Yeah,
BBC filmed exteriors on film and interiors on video. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Except for the Spearhead in Space, which was all film.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, back then, I think video cameras were
They're
immense.
new.
Yeah.
So they
You couldn't
couldn't,
move them
bring
around
them on
outside,
location.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And also the yo-yo.
Yes.
That's a reference to the Fourth Doctor. He had a yo-yo. And there's like lots of references made throughout.
Mhm.
And then also the pocket watch. I don't think there was anything significant to the pocket watch
At
before
the
now.
time, yeah.
Before this aired, like the doctor might have had a pocket watch, but it wasn't a big deal.
But none of
But
them.
now you kind of look at the pocket watch and
Right.
smile,
You're like,
knowing what we know.
Mhm.
Be a good logo for something.
Well, some people don't
It
know.
might.
But some people don't know yet the pocket watch.
Well, then keep a lookout.
Yeah.
Grace can't understand why the doctor's blood is so strange, and so they decide to go for a walk. Yes, just like that. More of the doctor's memories are returning.
I thought it was strange that Grace doesn't actually put on her coat. She doesn't put her
like a
arms through the
shawl.
sleeves.
shawl.
She just puts it over her shoulder and then holding it the whole time.
Is she still in her gown? I can't remember at this point.
No.
But it's much easier for him to
Grab it.
grab her and so she can get away from him,
Oh.
and he's left holding her coat.
Oh, is that
It's
what it was?
really awkward and just bad staging, but it explains why he can hold her coat at the end while she's running away.
I think this is where this doctor becomes the doctor because
Yes.
Totally.
his memories come back and he's like running around for no reason and he's explaining things to her in a very fast manner.
And then he turns on a dime going, "This is great. This is fantastic. This is wonderful. My shoes fit." Very doctor line. Very, very doctor line.
Which is the real reason they went for a walk.
This is also the first time we have a kiss.
Oh yeah, I did like
Very
that.
controversial.
Was it?
Very controversial.
I like how they just did it though without really bringing a ton of attention to it before or after.
McGann said that when he filmed it, he knew it was going to be controversial. So if you watch him, his lips are really tightly together. These we're not doing
To make it less romantic.
less romantic. He tried to make it as small.
I'm sure then that was an American
Still
thing.
romantic. Still plenty romantic.
But what were you going to say about the controversy? They were worried about how that
just
was
that-
going to.
People, the people making this knew that this was going to be a thing, so I don't know.
More controversial than shooting, like the doctor. Has he gotten shot before? Had he been shot before?
No, but they would kind of just go, "Oh, Americans,"
okay.
And this was you were taking. Yeah, the doctor does get shot. That is true. So probably that was controversial as well. Also, did we tell them that the BBC actually edited out some of the shooting?
A lot of the
Oh,
violence.
wow.
Yeah,
because-
before it got aired.
Because particularly because of the gang shooting, there was a school massacre that happened in 1996 in I'm not going to say this right, Dunblane. So that was like,
Okay.
It was a sensitive
Yeah.
subject, so they did cut that down. But they also knew that this was a kids show. It was very much a kids Saturday. Like for us, it would be like a Saturday morning kids show. So to have your main character of that,
violently shot.
Captain Kangaroo never.
I don't think that's the best comparison.
No, but
But yeah.
But I would give it more towards like a Wonder Woman or something that we had in the 70s. That kind of a TV show. ISIS, one of those in the morning,
yeah, so
rather
Captain
than
Marvel
Captain
and
Kangaroo.
ISIS kissed each other.
But more than Captain Kangaroo, I mean, that just like,
Okay,
no,
Captain
they did have
Kangaroo
more
is bad.
action. They did get some of that.
Okay.
That's all I was
We
saying.
understand.
Thank you so much.
That's all I was saying. So,
Well, it's also just more that character was never seen that way
Yes,
before.
that's true.
right.
It wasn't like a Zorro or some romantic swashbuckling character. It was this doctor who was usually played by an old man.
hmm
Inside the TARDIS, the Master takes Lee to the cloister room and shows him the Eye of Harmony, the power source of the TARDIS. They need to open the eye so they can locate the Doctor, but the Master cannot do it because the TARDIS blocks him. He gets Lee to open the eye by having him look into it. Apparently, only human eyes can do this.
Because when they built it, there were all those humans around.
Exactly, yeah.
Well,
As the eye opens in the TARDIS, the Doctor's memories come flooding back to him. The Doctor is somehow connected to the eye. Oh, and he's also half human. Anyway, in
Yeah.
that moment of joy,
Say what?
the Doctor kisses Grace. He also learns of the Master's real plan to inhabit the Doctor's body.
All right.
Yeah.
What is this half-human business?
Thank you, because I was kind of falling asleep at that time, and I was just gonna be like, "Oh, I guess it was explained," but
Yeah.
I was
No,
like,
sure wasn't.
all right. I thought to myself, is this might be like a piece of Doctor Who lore that I'm just not familiar with, and we'll talk about it when we record. So now we're talking about it. So
There are two things that could possibly explain why this is still in the script. One, it's introducing a new property to American audiences, so to
Right.
connect them to humans. The other one is that the original version of this story was that he was going to go and find, the doctor was going to go and find his dad, and his mother was human. So
That was the original conceit of the story.
Of this version of the story.
Yeah.
So that's probably what just,
So now is that part of like what they call canon now?
There's a big debate.
yes and no.
Yes, but no. It's kind of filed under
No, but yes.
note.com. So
It's kind of one of those things where
we don't talk
we're just
about
going
it
to
much.
ignore it and move on.
I kind of like to think of it as, in one of the earliest episodes of Star Trek, there's a tombstone with his name on, with Kirk's name on it, and it's James R. Kirk. And you just kind of go, yeah, okay. And then you just ignore it from then on. So this was, nobody decided to bring this back up.
So just for Arlene's edification, it's James Tiberius Kirk.
So that would be T.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Not Riberius.
Unless Scooby-Doo is saying it.
The eye relays what the doctor is currently seeing, and Lee recognizes Grace as the woman that operated on the doctor. The doctor closes his eyes, and the Eye of Harmony breaks connection with him. The doctor follows Grace back to her home. He tells her that they need to close the eye or it will warp reality and destroy the planet by midnight.
All right, so did you get to the part where he tells her that he knows about her childhood dreams?
Oh, yeah, that happened earlier.
So where does that even come from?
That's also new. Like, there's some sort of telepathy with this doctor that...
Yeah, they just kind of, I wish they hadn't done it so much, but where it is, the doctor can kind of see what your future is and what your past is.
Because he's a
Which I
time
kind of I don't necessarily mind.
No, but it's
It's
just
used
not.
too
It's,
much.
it's,
Yeah.
it's not part of
The lore.
the lore.
I read that as the doctor in a previous adventure had encountered that. So like the boy later, Gareth, thank you. So in a previous adventure, the doctor did something, like had an adventure with the
him.
older Gareth.
Well, he does say how famous that guy is going to be because of some, but
Earthquake
then
stuff.
right, but there was nothing supposedly famous about this woman, and I thought maybe something will come up, but it
In
didn't.
a previous adventure,
Yeah.
he encountered her as a kid, and they had a conversation about her dream.
For those listening,
That's
we'll
how
get to
I
Gareth in just a
interpreted it.
moment.
Yeah.
He hasn't shown up on the show yet. So if you can't see
the fact that they just
the
don't-
episode,
but also he does
we'll
it
get
with-
to him in a second.
But he does it with Grace
Yeah.
Right, but
already at this point.
since they brought up Gareth, I thought, we'll get to him.
The fact that they just don't even explain it, like they could have done something more than
More than nothing?
More than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I like your explanation more, but it bothered me because like that would have been too much of a coincidence that now he's running into her totally on accident, and then he runs into that guy totally on accident.
Right.
I bet you anything they've done comic books telling
Explaining
those
that.
stories.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I bet you anything.
Or if
took
you're
it-
listening and you do come,
Let us know.
give us these stories.
I took it as just his knowledge of everything was immense. Like he knew everybody's
Yeah, but you
story.
can't know everybody.
Of course he can't. That's why it didn't make any
Right.
sense. But
If it was-
still, it's like, okay, I guess that's
Because
what we're doing now.
when he started mentioning later on in the movie that he knew different famous people like Sigmund Freud and Madame Curie, is that one?
Yeah.
And
Puccini.
Da Vinci.
yeah, like those are people he probably made a point to go find
Yeah,
out
that's
about.
true.
Yeah.
Not some doctor somewhere before she actually was the one who killed him.
It's just the problem when you're trying to reboot a
Yeah.
series and continue it at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure if this did take off and became the new incarnation, then those things would have been explained.
Yeah. Well, we don't
And
know.
that's scary because then if it did, we wouldn't have the doctor that we know now.
I know.
We wouldn't have the ninth.
It's just a problem we have to accept and move forward.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
We gotta complain about something.
Yeah. To prove to Grace that the doctor is telling the truth about like the stuff at midnight, he enters her house through a large pane of glass which bends and reforms as he passes through. She calls for an ambulance thinking he is crazy. On the television, the newscasters talk about a new atomic clock being unveiled that night at the Institute of Technical Advancement and Research, and the doctor says he needs the beryllium chip from the clock to fix the TARDIS.
What's the beryllium sphere from?
Galaxy Quest.
Oh, okay. What does it even do? But you fail to mention that the effect of the eye opening is what's causing the disruption in molecular reality.
Yeah.
Which is why he was able to pass through the glass. It wasn't a superpower.
That pesky TARDIS.
And she's seen him as an abnormality. There's something that he was somehow either genetically changed or was actually born with two hearts, and he's just an oddity, not
An alien.
An alien.
Right. Or and,
So at this point, she's like, "No, you're an insane
Yeah.
person, but you have this oddity to you that I want to figure out." Until he goes through the glass, and she goes, "I may be insane too," because she still cannot believe this at this point.
Isn't that what she says? We need 2 ambulances.
We may need
Or
two.
2 beds.
Two
at the
beds.
psych-
2
at
beds at the
ward.
psych ward. I think that was the funniest line in the thing.
The Master and Lee arrive in Bruce's ambulance, and Grace and the Doctor mistake them for the one that she had called. The Doctor does not recognize the Master and tells them to drive to the Institute. En route, the Doctor discovers that Bruce is the Master, who sprays venom, as you do,
Yay.
on Grace, hitting her in the arm. They escape from the ambulance and steal a police motorcycle to get to the Institute. And once they get to the Institute, they see that the ambulance has already arrived before them.
How very American to have a chase,
Yeah.
an action scene.
But this is just such a bad scene.
What about the scene with the cop? Is that
Well,
what you're talking about?
this whole section, because
Yeah.
chase.
I mean, they come up to the motorcycle officer, and it's just so strange. He takes the gun from
They get his gun,
right?
then gives his gun to her. She shoots the radio.
Right, which is going
get
for,
the
and then
key-
to get the keys for the motorcycle, but the keys are already in the motorcycle. And so, why take the keys out and give them to you to just put them back in?
Where did that jelly baby come from?
It's in his pockets of his coat.
Right, but why does he?
The coat that he got from the hospital.
I know.
But they did bring the Doctor in clothed when he got shot, and he had the jelly babies then. So maybe he found his old clothes as part of it somewhere. Because you keep the artifacts, with they didn't give him to Chang.
The Asian child took his artifact.
But that was just all the stuff that was in the pockets. The clothes were still there, and they
wouldn't have put the candy in the bag with the rest of his artifacts.
The orderly, was going to eat them for the New Year's because he was eating popcorn and
So
stuff.
the doctor is wearing half his old clothes and half the new clothes that he found.
I've seen he just found the jelly baby.
It's another thing we just have to accept.
Okay, look, here we go. Here's the answer. He kept the jelly babies in the same place that Jack kept his gun.
Gross.
And that's a British thing, right? Jelly
Yeah.
babies?
Yeah.
Gummy bears.
Okay.
They are different. Don't think
they
that-
look different.
Yeah, don't think that you're having a gummy bear and that's a jelly baby. Gelatin, and they're not as sweet.
Sylvester McCoy, because he was eating a jelly baby in the beginning of the episode, which his doctor never did either. That was the 4th Doctor.
Okay.
So he said it was good that he didn't have any lines because when you eat jelly babies, you can't talk because it sticks to the roof of your mouth.
The scene with the traffic jam was supposed to involve a circus truck overturned and more animals were supposed to be on the road. But the budget only allowed for chickens.
And then the line that the Master says about, well, there's still a traffic jam. This is an ambulance! Oh, yeah, let me drive around it.
Now they enter the Institute, which is holding a New Year's Eve party to celebrate the new atomic clock. They steal the inventor's ID card and secretly make their way to the clock. They take the beryllium chip but are spotted by the Master. The Doctor sets off the fire alarm to cover their escape.
And you guys notice what a close talker that inventor guy was?
Yeah.
He was just weird.
But I think they did that for the sleight of hand so you couldn't see Paul McGann take the badge.
Also, this is where Gareth comes into this, and I just want to say, what American is ever named Gareth? There are no Americans named Gareth.
I knew a Garrett.
I know of a Garen.
The newscasters are trying to explain how everything's going crazy in the world, and gravitational fluxes that are every 1,000 years. That's why it's on the Millennium. And he does a very doctor line there where he just says, he just is kind of smiling, going, humans, you're always seeing patterns that aren't there. It's such a doctor line.
But then he should have said, I only see patterns half the time.
I only see half the pattern.
I do really like seeing this doctor have to function without all of the gadgets.
Yes.
Like that, I think, is a definite plus for this TV movie.
I have that note for later, but yeah, I agree with you.
Like
But when he gets a chip out, he can't do it with the Sonic. He can't just quickly.
He has to
Undo the-
unscrew them manually.
and I mean, this is the second time that he's done the sleight of hand stealing thing, but it
Right.
makes sense for the Doctor when he doesn't have all of like the sonics and the psychic papers and whatever else.
And the
he
use of
has.
the TARDIS, even,
Right.
So what did he use for on the panel? Just his strength?
his thumbnail.
Because I wondered that how he got out of the morgue. I'm like, did he just bang down the door?
Yeah, he
Because
kicked
he's
it down.
So
He kicked down the metal door.
Yeah.
So Time Lords are
what's that?
stronger.
I forgot about
I know we're
that.
past it, but
And Jesus was able to roll the rock away from the tomb.
Right.
It's more of the Christ illusion.
And if he sees his shadow, it's 6 more weeks of winter.
But also, just on the television, just happens to be the news report of what he's looking for.
Of course.
You know, another,
Convenient.
oh,
I
here's the
did think-
beryllium chip you want. It's in this atomic clock that's opening just tonight over there.
Right. I did think that those news reporters were some of the best TV movie news reporters I've ever seen. They actually felt really real.
They were real.
Oh, they were. They did
they
it.
were Vancouver.
But even sometimes
Newscasters?
real newscasters don't actually seem real when they're in a
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
Those Canadians are good.
And once he sets off the fire alarm, why did they show somebody cleaning the floor during a huge gala during a fire alarm?
yeah, I wondered that too. I was like, who's that guy?
Yes.
Why is he still inside?
With his headphones on, just going.
Plus, also, what was the 5 slimed guards?
But they're not. Their skin isn't bubbling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And it's
just
slime
frozen.
more than
And they-
acid.
and like, why would he freeze them and kill them rather than take over their minds like
Possess
he
them.
did with the
Inconsistent.
Doctor?
It
Inconsistent.
just, yeah.
And when did he start spraying venom? How did that part of the snake come through?
That's a trait of, I don't know, South Gallifreyans? I don't know.
Well, some snakes do
Makes no
that.
sense. Yeah, well, what? Oh,
Cool.
I understand if it was somehow a snake, but it's supposed to be the master.
Well, I didn't see it as the venom. I saw it as that goopy stuff that came out of the.
Yeah, but he spewed it like some snakes do.
And it hurt her.
Well, yeah.
But she wasn't
How
covered
else
in
was
that.
it gonna come out?
She had
though?
enough in slime.
I'd rather not think about that.
It wasn't gonna come out of the guy's fingers. Like he's like regurgitated the slime out of his mouth.
And was the master upset about the fire extinguisher cooler on him? Get it off me! Get it off me!
So whiny. Moving on.
They return to the TARDIS to discover that it is dying and almost out of power. The Doctor attaches the beryllium chip and the eye closes, but they are too late. The eye has been open too long, and the destruction of the planet will still happen at midnight. They plan to jumpstart the TARDIS and send it back a few days so it has time to recharge and stop the altered reality. Grace's arm has begun to change, and she is now possessed by the venom and under the Master's control. She knocks out the Doctor as Lee and the Master arrive.
They tie up the Doctor, who now regains consciousness.
They had the really bad joke when they first got to the TARDIS of some motorcycle cop, for some reason, not having brakes, heading towards the
Yeah,
TARDIS.
doesn't he yell?
goes
I don't have my brakes.
Yes, going through the TARDIS. You know, it's a whole Herbie the Love Bug kind of moment. Somehow turn around and then comes back out and just keeps going down the street.
I liked it. That it was funny.
I thought that
But
was
it made no
that was the moment for
sense.
kids.
True, but it
doesn't
makes no
fit. It
sense. It
doesn't
doesn't fit in anything. Who is this guy? It's not the same motorcycle that they shot up
Right.
because they have that motorcycle. It's comedy where this is supposed to be a serious point.
We're getting to the third.
Throws it all
act,
off.
You know.
It's
Just
probably
to me, just throws you out. It's
probably-
like, this is just ludicrous.
It's probably a gag that some producer wanted in there from the very beginning, and that's where they ended up having to put it.
Yeah, but also look at Paul McGann while it's happening. His acting's really good. He's just got this look on his face, like, yep.
Yep, it was
come on
fun.
eventually.
It's a funny little bit, but it's
It is, and I've liked it in other movies. This point,
I agree
it's
with you.
not
It just stood
consistent.
out.
It's inside its own world
I liked it.
of what the Doctor did.
I liked it.
Also, when they go running in, you can hear the cloister bell going. So there is, next time you watch it,
If you
you
watch
can hear a bell going on in the background, and that's the cloister bell, is what it's called.
What is
It had
that?
been used before, and we will hear it a lot going forward.
What is the function of the cloister
An alarm.
bell? Oh,
When the cloister bell goes off inside the TARDIS,
Something's wrong.
very badly wrong. Very badly wrong. So, and it's the same sound.
And this
which I kinda
TARDIS
liked
was
it.
dying. It's like it's
Oh, okay.
trying to get.
It
the
wasn't that it was the motorcyclist.
No.
It was like a. It wasn't supposed to be in there.
No,
It
it's that
was
the
like
TARDIS is dying.
was that burglar alarm or something?
No.
Okay.
Grace has knocked out the Doctor, and now the Doctor regains his consciousness. The master blames the doctor for the fact that he has no more regenerations and is happy to steal the doctor's remaining ones. Lee realizes that the master has lied to him and refuses to help. The master then snaps Lee's neck and goes over to Grace. Her eyes have now changed due to the venom and will not open the Eye of Harmony. The master sucks out all the venom of her so she is herself again and forces her to open the eye again.
Again?
Oh, does the master come back down at the beginning of this scene in Gallifreyan robes?
Yeah.
Yes, those are Gallifreyan robes.
Oh, the
And aren't they
Gallifreyan
fabulous?
robes.
They are fabulous.
They're actually really cool.
I like
I wish
it.
he would. I wish he didn't play it the way he plays it.
Yeah, that's
Because
what,
they're really that's
Yeah, why
Gallifrey. The only thing missing is the high collar.
Yeah.
man. It's awesome.
but the choice he
played
made or
Yeah.
they made it doesn't work. It's
I
too
couldn't
much.
find
And
it.
it's also
I
awkward
liked him
because
as the master. I don't, but
you're going
we
from
can-
the Terminator to
Like Liberace.
Liberace.
Yeah, he became more Gallifreyan. He's like now in his robes, and he's like, yes, now I can be me and no longer Bruce. I am the master. And I don't know. I thought it was cool. Like he gave me shivers as the master. I'm like, oh, the master is back. He's evil. He's horrible. Like,
What did he say?
Always dress for the occasion.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that to be a little, especially coming off the fact that you've been basically Arnold Schwarzenegger
And then
up
why,
until this
why
point, and
this
then all of a
change?
sudden you switch, which I didn't mind him switching into the Gallifreyan robes. And also, he doesn't continue it.
okay.
You know,
Right.
he tries to be, you know, that gets dropped off, and he's just, you know, I'm menacing
Yeah.
in that Eric Roberts way.
Yeah. I
but-
read it as he was happy to be back in Gallifreyan
I like
clothing.
that. I actually like. Thank you. I will use that.
Next time.
The next time I'm watching this.
Yeah.
If you notice, half the time there are dead leaves all over the cloister
Yeah,
room.
I did
Where are
notice
those
that.
coming from, and why? Is there a forest in the TARDIS? I mean, there could be, but
Those leaves were deadly. I think they cut Eric Roberts' eye or something. Like
oh yeah, then when they were
Yeah,
swirling around,
yeah.
they
Oh,
scratched.
really?
He
They
had
scarred his
trouble
eye.
on this.
there was a
Oh,
lot
you
of
mean not
In real life.
In real life.
Yeah, in
oh,
real
Yeah,
life.
yeah. No, those were
And that's why
real
they took them
leaves,
out?
but it was
Yeah.
like, why? I don't, you know, it's
Why
Well,
they're dead.
I like the medieval again, the gothic, very
the bats.
yes,
the bats.
The bats,
That's where
yeah.
they come from. I'm just the whole even from the beginning between the candles and the torches and all that stuff. I
Yeah.
was just like, it's gonna fall. It's gonna fall. It's gonna burn something down.
Well, and also
it's dangerous.
Who lit all those candles?
Right. Well, the way I kind of made a geek logic in my head was they're actually lights that just look like fire. That's
Yeah.
the TARDIS decorating.
Exactly. He can flip a switch and the
Yes.
candles go out. Yeah.
Right.
So, but the leaves always just kind of like, it's just one of those random things. Like, you know, this is, you know, okay, it's time for it. My Star Trek reference where it's like something blows up and all of a sudden these rocks land on the bridge, and you're like, where are the rocks in the bulkheads? So you know,
It's
But the thing is that-
it's a
it's just-
replicator gone wrong.
it's just, you know, detritus.
But then the leaves are gone during certain cuts
Yes.
and scenes. So that's even more distracting.
Because Eric afterwards said, I am not working until the leaves go away.
I don't.
I
blame
made that
him.
up.
Don't
That's not
work.
true.
Don't work with kids, animals, or leaves.
Yeah.
And then all the pets are like, "We're back in."
And when they bring the doctor into the cloister room, it's nice to know the TARDIS has a gurney.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of like the TARDIS has everything, including hospital
No,
equipment.
he got that from the ambulance.
Oh,
They
yeah.
drove the ambulance there.
I like it
See, I'm making you appreciate this
so much more. This is also McGann's greatest scene. This is where he is the doctor to me when he's yelling. I mean, he yells really well. He's not screaming. He just
And this is also the next Christ imagery with the crown of thorns.
Is this when he's tied up,
Oh,
or not tied up? When he's in the machine,
yes. When he's in the machine, he can't close his eyes.
he looks like Gene
and
Wilder.
he's yelling at Lee, going, "Listen, he lied to you. He lied to you." That's actually kind of my favorite Eighth Doctor moment is when he's lying to you. Very, very Doctor to me.
I did feel that Lee got convinced quite easily. Though.
Yeah, I have that same note.
He's become this bad guy. He's a villain in the whole episode. And you're like, yeah, good point there, guy.
All I had to do was yell at me.
Wasn't he a gang member at the beginning? Like
Yeah, he was
shooting up
shooting at
at
the other
rival
gang.
gangs?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always been kind of a bad guy. Like
Yeah.
I didn't understand why he was helping the
Yeah.
doctor in the beginning. Oh,
Throughout the whole movie, I was like, I don't think he's completely on the side of the master. Like, I think he's just going along.
Just wanted money.
Well, you wanted money. He didn't want to be killed by the master. And so I was,
And I think he did
think
believe the master that.
I think he believed as
the
well.
other guy's a bad
I don't
guy.
think he was like playing the master.
No, for sure. I believe
But
that.
I think that there was always room for doubt in his character's mind. He
There-
wasn't
Right.
like completely a henchman of this guy. Or
There
anything.
was also some hypnosis, if you recognize it
that's
in
right.
the beginning.
Oh yeah, to give
Because he
him-
just goes,
to
walks
the
over, and then he puts
doctor's
on the
things.
sunglasses and he shakes it off. So there could be part of that too.
Yeah, I thought that was a plot point that they kind of dropped. That
The eyes have some
he
sort
was
of power.
actually under his control a little bit, but they never come back to it.
No.
But I think he's realizing how important everything is. Like this could be the end.
Of the
If the
world.
doctor's what the doctor said was right, this is the end of the planet. This is everything. And when the master says it himself that he lied,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, wait a minute. Back up. I'm out of this. This is getting too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then gets his neck snapped, and that was sad.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that actually. I was like,
The third act is
I was
very
like, wow,
weird.
okay.
that was a very, I don't know if it was
There's the-
80s or 90s, but the whole neck snapping, I remember it used
yeah.
to be much more.
It started
Like-
with Steven Seagal, and then everybody
Yeah.
started doing that.
It was always like, I think
Right.
my brother and I would play, and that would be definitely
Are you
a part
serious?
of. Definitely, yes. We would
That's
snap each other's
awful.
necks a lot.
I've done it.
Yes.
I
Not
wasn't
in real life.
I wasn't allowed to
That's
watch
right, not
much
in real life.
television in the 80s and the 90s, so I missed all this neck snapping.
Yeah.
Wow.
During the regeneration transfer, neither the doctor nor the master can move. Grace rushes back to the TARDIS console to complete what the doctor started. She is successful, and the TARDIS reaches temporal orbit, which begins reversing the regeneration transfer. She rushes back to the cloister room to free the doctor. The master is freed since the transfer has stopped and pulls her away from the doctor, throwing Grace off of the balcony, which kills her. The doctor finishes freeing himself and goes to Grace. The master tries to throw the doctor into the eye, but falls in himself. The doctor reaches for him, but cannot save the master.
I like that the doctor wants to help his enemy. That's very doctor-like.
He had to try and save the
Yeah, he
doctor.
reaches out trying to help the master. I think that's...
Now, he doesn't reach into the eye.
No,
he doesn't
'cause
just
he's
kinda
not
stand there
stupid.
going, well, he's gonna,
But it shows that Paul McGann is the doctor, you know?
always giving
Yes.
chances.
Yeah.
I did like that they cut back and forth and used the countdown to midnight as a countdown
Yes.
for the eye.
No,
I did like it.
It worked. The whole idea of that works good. I was just saying earlier that they don't have an explanation for
Sure.
the
Right.
connection.
Agreed. And I wish they did, but using it, I think that was a nice bit.
Yeah. The TARDIS uses the energy from the eye to alter reality and bring Grace and Lee back to life before it closes the Eye of Harmony. The Doctor drops Lee and Grace off just after New Year's Eve, 1999/2000, and asks Grace to come with him. She declines, and they say goodbye.
And then when she tried to go to the ATM the next day, since everything turned to zero, she couldn't get her money, and all the banks went into hysteria.
And then there was Brexit. I mean, wait, what?
But this is the ending I don't like, which is why I didn't like the ending of the original Superman movie of just
Going back.
turning back time and saving the people who had just died. It's just, and somehow the TARDIS just, now we just,
yeah.
fix them, fix their necks, bring them back to life. And then Cheng Li, oh, hi, doctor. I have your stuff. When all before this, it's not yours anymore. It's mine.
It's all mine, mine.
So it was the TARDIS. It was like the TARDIS.
Oh, who knows?
giving them back.
it's
yeah,
the
it was
golden
the
light.
TARDIS.
Yeah, that
With
golden
the eye open.
sparkly light has come back in the
The
2005
Captain EO
series.
glittering of the Supreme Commander.
We never talked about earlier, like the transformation effects either, how different they were from. I don't know what they were like.
The regeneration?
I'm sorry, the regeneration
Oh,
effects.
the region.
Yeah, they had Sylvester McCoy pull those faces because Sylvester McCoy is really literally a clown. You know, he's very much that. He plays spoons and does all clownish kind of things. So he can really pull faces like
Was
that.
that reminiscent of how they did it in the classic?
The second Doctor.
each Doctor has transitioned differently
Different,
in
yeah.
the
Yeah.
original.
But you see the second Doctor Who was also kind of clownish. He's pulling faces when he regenerates.
Also along the regeneration line, at the end we see our eighth Doctor go back to reading the same book as the seventh
The time
Doctor.
machine.
Yeah, and then listening to the same music. But in our reboots of the Doctor Who series, hasn't each Doctor had like a completely different personality and liked different things, had different styles? So I was just wondering about that. Like, oh, so they're the same. They're just
But not
look
completely.
different?
I mean, they do have new personalities and new likes, dislikes, and interests, but maybe not everything. You know, like, oh, this is the book I was reading. And he also probably doesn't know yet. He might be
Maybe he has to reread
He's-
it.
yeah.
maybe 2 pages in, he'd be like, this is boring.
Okay.
And he puts the book away. And maybe this Doctor doesn't like books that much. You know,
Yeah.
so he's still
He's figuring
in
it
that,
out.
He's figuring it out.
And I just took it that book ends for a new viewer. Like, oh, this is where we started. This is where we're end.
Yeah.
So it's the same guy, even though his physical appearance is different.
It was just something that
Yeah.
bothered me a little bit. I was like,
But I do
oh,
like
what?
that he's working on the TARDIS. And then
Yeah, he fixes it.
if you notice that the whoosh is not the same, and then he fixes it. I like that. And also the point where the console, the things are moving up and down and they stop. And everyone's like, what? And then he just hits it. And I'm like, to me, that's like the show. That's what the next, it's going to be the show continuing, because that's kind of what
That
it
was
is.
just too much of the Fonz
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah. I also did love the viewer in the ceiling. I thought that was a fun
Yeah,
touch.
that was cool.
Yeah,
Is that
that was
new
really cool.
for
Yes.
the movie?
Yeah. And we never see it again.
Because
It's just
of
from
money.
Probably
Yeah.
because of money, yeah. Yeah, the old TARDISes just had TV screens.
Yeah. I
A
remember
bunch of
that.
TV screens.
One thing I was thinking of, and I just thought of this as we were watching it now for the first time. You know how in the beginning we were saying, this is very un-Dalek-like. The Dalek are not going to hold a trial. The Dalek are not going to just hold a trial before they execute somebody and then have the Doctor take the remains away for internment on Gallifrey, right?
Fulfill the last wish of the prisoner.
Yeah, the Daleks would never allow that. But now I just kind of hit me this time going, I wonder if the Daleks planned this. Like, they didn't kill the Master all the way.
They're in cahoots with the Master?
Maybe not even in cahoots, but it's just kind of like, well, maybe in cahoots, but it's like, well, this would be our way to actually get to Gallifrey or get to the Doctor and Gallifrey. We'll make the Doctor and the Gallifrey and the Time Lords think that the Master's dead when he's really not. And then he can go and really mess up and create havoc their own way. Because I hate the fact that it's Daleks in the beginning. It makes no sense whatsoever. So it's just kind of like, okay, I'll rationalize it any way I can. And I just kind of thought that now. It's not something that
I think
thought
it's a
of
good
from-
rationalization, but there ain't no way they thought of that. Whoever wrote this.
No.
Interesting fact, this television movie won the 1996 Saturn Award for Best Television Presentation.
Really want to know what it was up against.
Yeah, really, what was it up against?
For this actually, it was in the category of single genre television presentation, so not series. So it was just like TV movie. So it was Doctor Who. It was up against Alien Nation, The Enemy Within, one of the movies of the week of Alien Nation. Something called The Beast, The Canterbury Ghost, Gulliver's, A Gulliver's Travels, and The Lottery.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Did I like it? Did I not like it? Would I have liked this if it'd been 7 years of no Doctor Who between my beloved television show just getting completely canceled out of the blue, as you guys were saying, and then 7 years later we had this movie? Would it have fulfilled? Would it have been like, yeah, it's Doctor Who's back? And I don't know, because it wasn't as deep, I think, as there was a lot of stuff missing. There were a lot of holes, a lot of discontinuity with storylines and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like it's lacking, but it was entertaining for watching it today, not needing a Doctor Who movie. Like, I don't need a Doctor Who movie today. But yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it just as like a viewing. And
Well, I mean, it did get 9 million viewers in the UK, so those
Right.
are.
But it didn't
yeah.
kick off
Oh no.
No.
it didn't do what they were hoping it would do.
Mm-hmm.
But the nice thing though is that it is considered canon.
Except
Where
for the
other-
half-human thing,
We just
right?
ignore that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was going to be the next thing. Like, this is still
Yeah.
considered canon.
It is
like,
considered
it was good
canon
enough to...
because yes, it was good enough to be. It fits in now where Paul McGann is considered a doctor. It's not like the Peter Cushing movies where there are two
Different.
Peter Cushing movies that were done in the 60s. It's not; those aren't considered canon because they're way too different. So this actually may not be the best story. It didn't kick off a new TV show, but you've got Sylvester McCoy regenerating into Paul McGann.
That was my note.
And then they've fit this into the continuity, and I think it fits really well.
I think in 1996, we would have liked it more than we do now when we have it to compare to the new series. Because a lot of the things that are really bad, well, the things that were really bad would still seem really bad, but a lot of the things that we don't like because that's not the way the shows are, we would have just like, oh, all right, whatever. We kind of accepted the new one.
Is there a story out there of Paul McGann transitioning into the
Yes.
Ninth Doctor?
We will
Okay.
get there.
Awesome.
In the timeline, we won't jump ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, just going back to like the same kind of feelings. Like the example in my life is probably the Phantom Menace. You know, growing up on Star Wars, and then all of a sudden there's new Star Wars, and I remember watching it and just being like, "Whoa, there's new Star Wars! This is so great!" And it's not till rewatching and like time has passed that I started to realize like, well, what is it great? Like, what's up with that? What's up with this? Like, I'm sure there was some similar sentiment for this at the time. I mean, the internet wasn't around the way it is today, so I'm sure you don't have like critical reviews in your research. But it was probably like at the time, yes, new Doctor Who, wow. But then as soon as that kind of glow subsided, and you got the time to actually think about what just happened, it probably lessened over time.
What just happened? Took us about a week to realize the Phantom Menace wasn't any good.
I was in high school, and it was pretty cool.
shut up.
It was pretty cool.
I was in high school as well.
I didn't like it that much when it first came out.
Which?
The
This-
Phantom Menace or this?
Both.
Did you see this when it aired?
Yes, I remember seeing it. And then we watched it again, and it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. And then watching it for this and actually having to have the idea of, okay, we're going to review it and watch it, it just fell apart for me for a lot of the things. You could just see that there are so many people that the writer was trying to appease and trying to add into. And no, we need to have this because we're on an American show. No, we need to have this because we're the BBC and we need to have it part of the Doctor. And we need to have it for this and for this. And it just seemed that they wanted a tall, short man who was balding with flowing hair. It's just like it didn't gel.
Well, I didn't dislike the Master as much as some of you guys did. It was the weakest part of this movie. Like, just the whole inconsistency of like the slug to the snake to the venom to those were the parts where I was like, what is going on? And then the whole eye and the fight scene at the end was not like, I didn't.
And I think it took too long to get to the Doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I needed more Doctor. Like, there was.
I like the Seventh Doctor,
And even
but he
when,
was shot so quickly and didn't really get to go anywhere. And then this took too long to actually find himself.
and then when he was, the story was going at such a pace, you
Right.
never had time to sit with him.
Right.
With what you were saying before about it being, the type of television show, there was a lot of TV like that back then. So I think we just not necessarily battling like British television with American television,
Right.
but just that the American style of television that was being shoved into this production, there was a lot of that going on where you just sort of accept it as TV cheesiness, which is why back then people kind of looked down upon TV, whereas nowadays TV is starting to become, but looked very highly upon.
But they also had some really good shows. Even
But it was
in
new,
the 80s.
but it was still new. Yeah, but they were few and far between.
Well, there's Beauty and the Beast TV show was great but that, and there was V, which was great. Then they got the series. The series, not the series. The series was bad because they aired it way too late after everything was already solved and they had to redo it. But the first V movie, that was back in the 83. And so they had some good stuff. And then we did some great things with.
Well, just to show what was on at the time as television series, the best network TV series nominations were The X-Files, Dark Skies.
Wow.
Dark
I
Skies
remember
is
that.
good.
Yeah, I like that.
Early Edition,
I watched that.
Millennium, which was a downer.
Oh, I liked
It
Millennium.
was a downer.
That's why I liked it.
Sliders.
But what part of Sliders?
Exactly what year?
I like the first half of Sliders.
Yeah. And
human
then
half.
also The Simpsons. Anyway. Then also they had a best genre syndicated TV series. So not network, but syndicated. And that was The Outer Limits, The New Adventures of Robin Hood, Babylon 5.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
But that's where the story overcomes its cheesy look.
Yeah.
So it's a really great story on a shoestring budget. Highlander.
That was on for a while.
It depends on which season.
Yes,
Yeah.
also. Yes.
Poltergeist: The Legacy.
Oh.
Yeah. And Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
So there was some really good television on.
Well, I guess
not
my
a
point of view
horrible
is
year for
more of just
television.
it had a lot of older TV tropes from the late 80s and stuff like that.
And as a standalone, it wasn't,
yeah.
like I said, as bad. It was only trying
But
to
it was-
dissect it and all these just inconsistencies.
Yeah. It was too bad.
Yeah, when you
'cause
peel the layers of the onion.
It smells.
I
Well, I wanted to mention two things. The Eighth Doctor is the only incarnation of the character to never encounter the Daleks on screen. He has battled them in audio dramas, but just not on screen. The DVD is now available, so you can get this thing. And it's also on the Doctor's Revisited set. The movie is on there just as the movie, but if you get the TV movie, it has all these supplemental materials and commentaries, and there's just a lot in there. Like the main documentary or featurette is really good, and it shows the journey of what Siegel went through to make
Is
this
it a
thing.
retrospective or was it made back then when they made it?
It's a retrospective.
So,
they got these people, and you can see like they show pictures of and footage of what they look like then and what they look like now, and it's like, wow, they actually agreed to do this. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, they're still around. And one thing Sylvester McCoy said that when he broke one of the switches on the TARDIS console, he said, "I feel at home." So that wraps up Doctor Who, the movie. This has been an episode of Who Classic, and we will see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady. You can find his work at theuniverseexplodes.com.
You can find this show in several places. Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com. You can leave comments there or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who, the longest running sci-fi show in history, and especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell, Sidney Newman, Verity Lambert, Ron Grainer, and all of those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord. Your work continues to inspire and entertain.